2017, there were over 8.4 billion devices connected to IoT. This number increased to over around 9.5 billion devices in 2018. And in 2019, it is estimated that there were close to 20.8 billion IoT connected devices. Now that's fabulous, right? This explosive growth of connected devices has led to, great communication, information access and automation worldwide. But at the same time, this has also led to an explosive growth of cybersecurity threats. And that is because of this convergence, a rapid convergence of mobility, Internet of Things, and cloud computing. So today we are in a stage where, while we have very good connection, automation, and information access, we also have this threat of cybersecurity every single minute. And there's a huge demand in the industry to have cybersecurity responders who can combat these threats. In fact, a recent study tells us that the demand for cybersecurity experts has outstripped the supply for such experts. I'm Rohit Agarwal from Talent Sprint, and I'm here to help you with this session today, which is on how to become a cybersecurity expert and win the cyber war. And in this session today, we have Dr. Sandeep Shukla, who is the head of computer science department in IIT Kanpur. He's also the program director for cybersecurity and cyber defense program launched by IIT Kanpur in partnership with Talent Sprint. Dr. Sandeep Shukla, I must tell you, is an IEEE fellow, ACM distinguished scientist, and he's also a subject matter expert in the cybersecurity for cyber physical systems and blockchain technology. So I'm really excited to welcome him in this session today. I'm inside our Hyderabad studio, and Dr. Sandeep Shukla is going to join us from the studio in IIT Kanpur. So I would welcome Dr. Sandeep Shukla. Thank you so much, Professor, for giving your valuable time in this session today.
Good morning. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you very well, and I'm sure our participants also can hear you and see you as you speak. So thank you for your valuable time today, and I hope my introduction about what the problem today is in terms of cybersecurity was to your expectation, I hope. So guys, this session, like I've told you, is about on the topic of how to become a cybersecurity expert and win the cyber war that we all are facing today. And I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions that you would like to ask our professor here. So please feel free to keep your questions going through the chat here, and we will take it from time to time. I'll be moderating this session for you on behalf of Talent Sprint. And before you could post in your questions, let me get started with a very basic question and a fundamental question to Professor Shukla here. What is the need of cybersecurity? While I've tried talking about some facts in the beginning of the session, but what do you think is the need of cybersecurity?
So today, because we are getting digitalized in every sphere of life, for example, your identity through Aadhaar, for example, is completely computerized and networked. You have all kinds of devices at your home, including smartphones. You're using computers at work, which are networked, and also the systems that are there around us, like, for example, the power grid, the telephone and communication system, or the water treatment plant in your city or in your region, the oil and gas transportation, transportation of goods, in fact, railway signaling, and air traffic control. All these things are computerized and connected to networks. And therefore, there is an unprecedented situation where you can debilitate a country's economy and ability to defend itself just by sitting in a cyber war room in another country. And we are seeing that some of this are already happening. So if you are following the news, several months ago, we had this D-track malware found in the IT system of a nuclear power plant in India. We have situations where ransomware was locking all the essential information and files and disks in the uh, transportation, like for example in the Bombay uh, port that is managed by a company called Maersk. That was attacked by ransomware all the way in Europe, but it had its effect here. We keep hearing about ransomware attack on many other utilities, including some of the power utilities and individuals. Even we hear that inside campuses in the universities. We have had situation in cities like New Orleans most recently, but also in the in Baltimore and Boulder in Colorado. Their whole government information system was ransomware. Your phone could be actually infiltrated by a virus or some kind of a Trojan, which can actually send your keystrokes to a command and control server and compromise your banking information and other kind of information. We heard about the Pegasus attack on WhatsApp that was allowing others to look at your SMSs and your WhatsApp messages and all that stuff. So the picture is quite grim. And with that, uh, one of the reason is that many of the systems and we use have software that have bugs. And by software, we not only mean application software, but operating system, the firmware, all these things have bugs. And these bugs lead to opportunities for cyber attackers to actually infiltrate these systems. There is also a problem that many times we don't patch our systems. So there are companies, software companies often send out patches to fix those problems, at least temporarily, until new vulnerabilities are discovered. But we often don't do it. We also are not sometimes aware, so we get emails with links or Microsoft Office files or PDF files, and we from unknown sources, and sometimes even pretending to be from known sources, known contacts, and we click on them and we infiltrate our system with those. So all these things happening around us, it seems to me that cybersecurity should be a foundational subject for each and every person in the country, or especially those who work with smartphones, computers. And even if you don't work with smartphones and computers, your power system may be hacked, and there may be, a cascading rolling blackout like what happened in 2012. It could be many other things that could happen around you. So being aware of cybersecurity practices and how to defend your system, if you are a practicing engineer, is very important. And it is more important. There are two components to it. One is we need experts in cybersecurity who could actually work in companies and the government to defend the systems from cyber attacks, create the all the architecture of the network of the computer systems that would have lesser probability of getting attacked, but also people who are not directly working in cybersecurity of their company, or in charge of cybersecurity policy or defense. They should also know, because a lot of the stuff that happens are because people are not maintaining a cyber hygiene. And this is becoming increasingly important, because somebody who is not in charge of cybersecurity but using the system in the company could actually compromise the system, not necessarily by their own faults, but because they get socially engineered, they download stuff that is not benign software, and all these things could actually lead to a lot of problems, sometimes catastrophic problems. So therefore, education in cybersecurity is very important, and that's why at IIT Kanpur, we started this center about 3 years ago, the National Interdisciplinary Center for Cybersecurity and Cyber Defense, or we call it C3I Center. And there we actually do a lot of research and also training and educational activities to increase the awareness, to actually impart the necessary foundational knowledge as well as advanced research activities. So we feel that this is very imperative. The second reason for cybersecurity education is that the NASCOM actually predicts that there would be about 1 million jobs in cybersecurity in short order in India itself, and worldwide it's a lot more, probably 100 million. And therefore, this is a great opportunity. Uh, it's a trouble, but it also opens up opportunity for job creation and also career option. So I think that is why cybersecurity is right now very, very important.
Well, thank you, Professor Shukla. I think it's very clear that cybersecurity has become a mission critical for most of the organizations. And like you've said,
Right.
the projections made by NASCOM clearly tells us that there is a huge demand for professionals who could combat these cyber attacks that are happening,
Right.
every single minute. In fact, I mean, while you've given a lot of examples about what is happening around the globe and what kind of physical systems, critical infrastructures are under threat, like the power systems or water treatment plants. A couple of examples that I can immediately add, and these are not items that I've heard in news. These are things that I've seen happening with me or my friends or my colleagues in the last 2 or 3 days. Right? For example, a friend of mine has got a phishing email on behalf of the CEO of his company, saying that I am in urgent need of money. Please transfer some 25,000 rupees to my account. And he was zapped. I mean, he thought this is a real email until he saw the email ID that's being used. And then these things have become really common, right? One other example that I can quote, which is a very basic thing, is I was trying to charge my phone using the USB cable, and a friend of mine, or rather a colleague of mine, stopped me from doing that. He says, please do not use USB cables to charge your phone because your data can be hacked, right? You should actually do it through an electrical socket. So,
Yeah.
this clearly tells us that while smartphones have made lives very simple, connectivity is great, information access is wonderful, but we are on a constant threat. So no doubt that there's a huge requirement there. Now, my second question,
Correct.
in fact, was on C3I, part of which you already covered in your first response. But I think it would be good to understand more about C3I, like what kind of infrastructure we have, and how much of a C3I exposure will the participants of this program get during their visits to IIT Kanpur. So if you can just talk a little about C3I.
Okay. So C3I, in 2015, when I came back to India, I realized that in India there is not much research going on in cybersecurity, especially in cybersecurity of critical infrastructures. And by critical infrastructures, we mean the power system, the water and irrigation system, sewage system, telecommunication system, transportation system, this kind of systems. They are called critical because if they are hacked, they could create industrial accidents. They could create blackouts, recovering from which could be quite time consuming, leading to huge economic loss to the country. So these are the systems that we thought that needs protection from cyber attacks, and we saw that attacks were already happening. So the first such attack happened in 2000 in Australia, where a sewage plant was hacked and sewage spilled all over the city. But there has been continuous such cases, and it is accelerating. So In 2016, the Ukraine power grid was hacked. In the transportation system, the Maersk, which is the one of the largest shipping company, they got hacked. There has been many such cases, of this kind of systems being attacked. So we started talking to the funding agencies and governments, and then eventually we convinced them that this is a requirement, and therefore we got funded to start this center. This center actually focuses primarily on cybersecurity of critical infrastructures, but you know, critical infrastructures have quite distinct cybersecurity concerns compared to the cybersecurity concerns of IT systems, but there are some commonalities as well. For example, malware threat is very common between both the IT system and what we call OT system, which is the operational technology, which is used to monitor and control the critical systems like power system or industrial manufacturing system and so on. So what we do is that, first of all, we have built India's first industry scale test beds for power generation, power transmission, power distribution. We have industrial scale water treatment plant test bed. We have industrial manufacturing test bed, and we have several other test beds. These test beds actually use all the equipments that are used in real systems, real installed systems, including the controllers like what we call programmable logic controller, including the intelligent electronic devices that are installed for monitoring and control, including the SCADA, the supervisory control and data acquisition system. So, and then we have been looking at their vulnerabilities. First thing is to actually to do cybersecurity is to figure out what are the threats. And if you don't know the threats, then you cannot protect your system. So first thing is to do what we call vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. And so we have done that, and we continue doing that. And so far we have disclosed over 15 vulnerabilities in such industrial systems, and they have been actually verified by vendors, and we have given them the proof of concept, to exploit them. And then about, I think, 11 of them have already been enlisted in the national vulnerability database of the in the US, which are attributed to our researchers and engineers. So that gives us a very good footing in terms of vulnerability and assessment and penetration testing field. We also do a lot of work on monitoring and better protection against such vulnerabilities. So we have developed what we call the intrusion detection system. And intrusion detection is also means that you want to detect when somebody is already inside your system or trying to do something in your system. And we have developed multiple different intrusion detection systems for small devices like PLCs. On the other hand, for the system-wide intrusion detection through machine learning and AI techniques. Another thing that we have done quite a bit is the malware analysis and malware detection. So we have developed tools, machine learning based tools for PDF, PDF, and so forth. And so malware analysis is one of the biggest activity that we do. Another thing that we do is, again, going back to the discovering threats. In order to defend your system, you also need to know the modus operandi of your attacker. So we actually have developed a number of what we call honeypots. Honeypots are systems that we develop, for kind of decoy systems, which are put in there in the network with guards down. So normally you want to protect your system, so you have a lot of guards, you have firewall, you have strong authentication and so on. Here we actually keep those things low. And then eventually the attackers discovered this. And when they discovered this, they actually come in and start doing stuff on the honeypot, as if first they think that this is a real system. So we can understand the modus operandi, what kind of scripts they are downloading into the system, what kind of malware they are bringing in. And using that, we can get a lot of what we call threat intelligence. And threat intelligence helps us to understand how we can protect, because there is no 100% cyber protection. So cyber protection is actually a continuous process, which is basically a kind of evasion pursuit game, right? So that the attacker's idea is to actually how to evade detection and still do harm, and our job is to actually pursue them to actually figure out that they are in the system and then stop them from being attacked. So in that, we have done quite a bit of work, and then we have also developed a web application firewall. So firewall is a way of defending your system, but that, as I said, that there is no 100% cybersecurity. So systems get hacked despite having firewall, despite having intrusion detection system. So you have to do continuous monitoring and then continuous evaluation of the situation, and then accordingly respond. So we actually do all this stuff. So C3I is engaged in all these activities. So that gives us a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience and a lot of laboratory facilities. Now, as far as this program is concerned, it is the first week, the 3 days that the students will be here. They will be actually seeing all these things, all these test beds. They will be told what the attacks are and how they happen. They get live demos. They will actually get some of this system prototypes in the form of virtual machines that will make them install in their system, which basically gives them a sandbox in which they have to do analysis of malware or create various kinds of uh, you know uh, risky activities, so that does not infect their own system. So we always contain our experimentations that they will be doing throughout the course inside the sandboxes. So they will learn how to develop and how to put those sandboxes in, and how to protect their system from anything that they will do during the experiments. So, but in the first week, what will happen is that most of the stuff will be looking a little bit difficult, because they are the first. That's the first week. So at the end, when they come in the last week, also they will be here, and there they will be much more effective in actually utilizing the laboratory, the test beds, and some of the projects that they will do throughout the semester. The capstone projects will actually enable them to actually try something out on our systems. That's the hope. It depends on how they do in their capstone project.
Yeah, yeah, it's really exciting to hear about the kind of infrastructure, test beds, and the expertise that we have at C3I. I mean, let me tell all of you that I have had the privilege of visiting C3I in one of my recent visits to IIT Kanpur. Once we started working on this program jointly, right, Talent and IIT Kanpur, and I was really zapped to see the kind of infrastructure that we have there. Although I'm not a techie, but it feels really great to see guys working on systems and a lot of hardware test beds which are being tested, and some kind of intrusion is being tried out, etc. So I'm pretty sure that participants of this program, the cybersecurity and cyber defense program by IIT Kanpur, are going to get enough hands-on experience at C3I.
Right.
And while Professor Shukla has already talked about the 2 visits that we will have in this program, for the benefit of all our audiences here, let me quickly give you a gist of the program. This is an advanced certification program in cybersecurity and cyber defense, jointly launched by IIT Kanpur and Talent Sprint. It's a 6-month program which has got 2 boot camps or 2 visits to the IIT Kanpur campus, one in the beginning and one towards the end. And in between these two visits, we'll have online sessions over the weekends. So it's a blended format. It's a hybrid format where you get to visit IIT Kanpur, you experience C3I, you get to interact with the experts at IIT Kanpur, including Professor Shukla here, and also network with your cohort, right? I'm sure the kind of participants that we'll have in this executive program are going to be already working in the field of cybersecurity. So the kind of peer learning that you would have here would also be amazing. So it's a blended format, 6 month duration. It starts with a visit, and it starts on the 10th of Feb. 10th of Feb 2020. So 3-day visit, 10th, 11th, and 12th Feb, followed by online sessions over the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, and then it ends with another visit to IIT Kanpur. So, like Professor has mentioned here, the first visit will be a little difficult, maybe because it will be your first time at IIT Kanpur and at C3I, but it is expected that when you come for the second visit, you will have a good grasp of that expertise there, and you'll be able to deal with things better. So that's about C3I. Thank you for the detailed explanation, Professor Shukla, and about the program uh, in brief. By the way, we are talking about demand of cybersecurity professionals worldwide, and especially in India with this Digital India mission and so much of connectivity that we have today. The demand also reflects in the way the program has been accepted, right? To put some numbers in perspective, we had launched this program in early December with just 50 seats, right? And I'm glad to inform that these 50 seats are almost sold out. I mean, 50 seats have already been offered, and we still have a huge demand from participants who would like to join the program. So Professor Shukla and his team has been kind enough to open up a few more seats, right? About 25 more seats for those who want to explore this program. So for all of you, if you are exploring to build this expertise in cybersecurity, here's a chance. You can contact us for more details on this. And now I think since we have questions flowing in from participants, I would like to take that up, Professor Shukla. To begin with, I think we have Chitra Lakshmi, who says, I'm a business administration graduate with little programming language or little programming knowledge. Will companies accept me with my educational background, even if I finish my certification in cybersecurity? So what's your say?
Okay. So if you have very little programming experience, this course probably will be difficult to even complete.
Okay.
So I think that the question of whether companies accept you or not is moot here. So
yeah, so that little is actually not defined, right? How little is the little is the question here.
Yeah.
So Chitra, what I would recommend is if you can go through the program page, there is a document that we have which tells you the kind of programming knowledge that you need to have to be able to complete the program smoothly, right? So if you find that you are good with the document there, whatever has been mentioned there, I think you can then try exploring.
Sure.
Yeah. And that has been designed by Professor Shukla and his team to ensure that participants don't find it very difficult when they actually enroll for the program. Moving on, we have Jaimandeep Bedi, and his question, Professor Shukla, is what is the path for CISO? Can you point towards some necessary or acceptable certifications and educational courses? So how do you get to the path of becoming a CISO is the question. And what kind of certifications can help you become one?
All right. So for being a CISO, I don't think that certification is the right way to go. In knowledge is the right way to go. So I think that our course is a certificate from IIT Kanpur. There are certificates from agencies abroad like CCNA, for example, and Microsoft and Cisco and so on. But those things don't really make you a CISO. To get to the level of CISO, I assume that you have to demonstrate to your management that you have a very good command of various different aspects of cybersecurity, so that you can actually figure out not only the threats, because CISO has to understand the threat landscape, the possible vulnerabilities in the system, the security architecture of the entire enterprise. Also, he has to probably manage, he or she has to manage the huge workforce that are engaged in cybersecurity, including the security operation center. So what we hope to do in this course is to give you knowledge, and that knowledge is going to be quite practical knowledge about cybersecurity, along with some very good understanding of the foundations. So to get CISO position, certificates, I doubt, will be particularly helpful.
All right. Okay. So that's the response. I think a couple of questions on these are not very relevant to the program that we offer, but a couple of questions on PhDs if available at IIT Kanpur in cybersecurity. So would you like to talk about what kind of other programs that you have, or if there is a PhD possible through C3I or through IIT Kanpur in cybersecurity?
Yes, so IIT Kanpur Computer Science Department is the hosting department for C3I. We have a pretty extensive PhD program. The PhD program entrance requirements are very similar to PhD program requirements, admissions requirements for any other IIT. That is, you have to have a BTech plus GATE score, or you have to have an MTech, in which case you don't need GATE score, and then you have to apply during the right time, and then you have to qualify to be called for on-site tests and interviews. And then if you qualify, then you will be accepted. And then if you think that cybersecurity is what you want to do, you will be working with one of the cybersecurity faculty, and maybe working on at C3I. So I think, and then if you have a lot of industry experience, we also allow people to do a walkthrough interview process for PhD. But for that, your resume should be such that the committee gets so impressed that they call you for walk-in interview. So in that case, you don't have to wait until the admissions process, once in December, once in May, whose application process starts in October, November, and April, March, April timeframe.
Sure. All right. I think moving on, this is more to do with the curriculum. Karthik says, will the project goes, parallel to the online classes, or will it be towards the end during the campus visit? So all of you know
No,
that there's
the
a capstone
project.
project here. So I think the question is that.
Right. So there will be many projects in the course, which are basically will be given out during the weekend classes, which we expect you to do before the next class, or maybe sometimes the projects may be of a longer duration, which will be relevant to what is being taught at that time. So those are smaller scale projects. The capstone project will be, we are hoping that within first 4 weeks, we will have the teams for capstone. Capstone project will be team based. So hopefully in the first week when you visit, you will have enough interaction with the other participants. So you know that who you want to team with. We will not be assigning teams unless you want us to, unless you say that I am unable to find a team, then we'll try to figure out who you can team with. But in general, we assume that you will have teams of 5 people who will be working online, alongside, weekend classes and so on, through Skype and other stuff. You can meet and all that. That project will be semester long and happening in parallel to what you do. Now, in the very beginning, like when you start the project, you have to start writing the requirements document, and you have to start writing the expected functionalities and how to test them and all that stuff. So the main programming part will probably come, halfway through the semester, when you have also enough knowledge. But that capstone project will be in parallel with the regular projects, what we like, kind of homework projects.
All right. Thank you. Now, I think a couple of questions on the pricing of the program here. to pick one there from Amit. He says, what is the benefit of joining this costly certification course with IIT Kanpur when there are less costly worldwide courses available, like SANS or OSCP? These are some uh, programs that he's referring to. So I think before Professor Shukla takes up this question, I have my own view on this particular one. Not just cybersecurity, but in this day and age today, where we have so much of access to information and data, uh, frankly, there's nothing that you cannot learn online. Right? Everything is available, right? So there are online certifications available which you can access, which are less costly, or some of them may also be free. But the challenge that we have seen with most of these uh, you know MOOC based courses is that completion rate is really low, right? And the motivation is not there. See, the program that we are offering jointly with IIT Kanpur is designed for working professionals who, on one hand, would not be able to, leave their full-time commitment with the work life, but at the same time would also want to experience IIT Kanpur, would want to experience C3I, which we have already discussed in detail, and to be able to learn from experts. So in my view, the price is rightly justified there, and this is how it is priced. But if you still think you can go ahead and do those less costly certifications, I'm not sure about the kind of curriculum that is offered in those certifications. Maybe Professor Shukla will be able to talk about it in detail. But if you think you can do it, why not? You should just explore that.
Yeah.
But this program has its advantages of being able to experience C3I and experience IIT Kanpur and to be able to meet subject matter experts, which is otherwise not possible. Over to you, Professor Shukla, if you have to add something there.
Right. So I think, yeah, as you said, Rohit, that it is possible to learn everything from various courses, YouTube videos. There are Coursera courses. There are many things that you can learn. But then you have to define your own curriculum, and you have to define how you want to do it. Now, if you go for SANS kind of things, also they have very specific type of courses, and they're not that cheap as well. But they will have a very small. They don't have an overall cybersecurity program. They have, like, you can have network security or some different types of modules that they offer as courses. So if you put together all the modules, I don't know what the costing will be. I mean, if you want to take all the modules, then the costing could be actually pretty substantial. So that's all I can say. But it's an individual choice about how they want to do it. I assume that having the cohort also will have some networking opportunity, as well as within the country support system among themselves. Once they finish this, they would know each other, I mean, this learning process will be lifelong, right? I mean, you get this certificate doesn't mean you are cybersecurity, on the top of cybersecurity game. Is just the you can think of this as just the beginning through which you will know how to now acquire further expertise, because it's also a moving field. So that you have to continuously update your knowledge and how you do that. So the foundations that we hope to provide will allow you to do all that ability to learn on the job and from each other, as well as from various other sources. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I was to close the response to this question with the peer learning part, which you have already brought out, and I'm sure that's going to be a great resource, right? I mean, the kind of network that you would build here, not just with the professors and other members of faculty, but with the cohort. And peer learning is definitely a very important aspect of this whole process. Moving on, we have a question from Rohit Raghunath. He says, is this course solely focused on securing SCADA services? And how is it different when compared to something like OSCP?
Right. So, this course is not about SCADA security only. It is basically So we teach a number of courses here at IIT Kanpur, right? So we teach a computer system security, which covers application security, which covers web security, which covers network security, and which covers basic crypto, because that's required for the network security part, and so on. Then we have a course on cybersecurity of critical infrastructure, which is more focused on the SCADA system. Then we have a course on malware analysis and intrusion detection. That's another course on malware analysis and intrusion detection. We have courses on cryptography, and we have some few other courses in the plan. So this course will be actually giving you the very essentials elements of all these courses combined. So the idea is that you will not only learn about cybersecurity of applications, like how to buffer overflow and secure programming and other kind of application security problems. You'll learn about web security problems and experiment with real web vulnerable web applications, and you will be doing projects on that to actually secure a web application which is given to you as a vulnerable web application. You will learn about network security, and you will learn about how to design your network to make it less vulnerable. You will learn about industrial security in terms of PLCs and SCADA vulnerabilities and what can happen to them, and things like that. You will also learn about honeypots and how they're designed, how they're configured, and what kind of threat intelligence you can get. So you will get a very high breadth and hopefully enough depth exposure to all these different aspects of cybersecurity. So these names that you're talking about, OSCP and all that stuff, are mostly for certification. So for certification, what I see is that people actually go through various training, various kind of exam manuals kind of things, and then they actually somehow pass the exam, but they don't do in-depth hands-on activities, and then they don't even learn the entire breadth of security. So not having done myself OSCP and stuff like that, I cannot really tell you about what the experience is like. But to me, those certificates are mostly for certification, and certification means for compliance and not necessarily for knowledge and understanding and ability to actually functionally work on cybersecurity. So it's mostly used for job applications, but not so much about actually learning. So here we are talking about actually learning stuff, and certification is not, certificate is given here at the end, but I don't think that certification is the important part here. Uh, so I think that's how I look at it.
I think very nicely put, Professor Shukla. I think certificates are only meant for compliance and not for knowledge. Uh, okay, moving on. A pertinent one now from Surendra. He says, post completion of this program, would we be given assistance if we are facing problem while practicing in iLabs? So this is more to do post the program is over. What kind of access will the participants have to, if they have any, to the subject matter experts, so that they can get their problems sorted or get the doubts clarified?
So we will have another cohort started right after this. So I don't think we can have a full support system after this, but it depends on what kind of rapport you build with the instructors and with us, depending on that. So for example, we recently trained two batches. Actually, 2018 December, we taught two batches of international IT professionals from various countries in Africa and Middle East and Southeast Asia and Asia here at C3I Center. Those were small abridged versions, 15 day each. One was on foundation of cybersecurity, and another cohort was for intermediate cybersecurity. And then there was this year also the same. So there were about 30 people in each of these groups. So there are 120 people that were trained. Now they are connected to us to a Facebook page called, we call it ITech. The program was called ITech. It was from the Foreign Ministry. So ITech cybersecurity Facebook page we created. We try to keep them, informed about various cybersecurity issues that we find interesting. And this year's cohort actually created also a WhatsApp group. So there also they sometimes ask. Yesterday, from the last year's batch, somebody from Palestine was asking me about PFSense firewall, whether he should use that or he should actually buy a Cisco. So I happened to know about PFSense, so I gave him some feedback. Some lady was asking about how she works for a bank, an IT person in bank from this year, from Mongolia. She was asking me about some attack scenario that is puzzling them, how that thing got attacked. So I had some idea. This requires some imagination, informed imagination, like what can an attacker might have done to get to that. So sometimes it depends on the rapport and the connection you decide to establish. But there would be no formal. We won't have a ability to formally have a entire support system for graduates of this program, because we'll be engaging in the next cohort by then.
Rightly so, and not just the next cohort, but you also have a lot of other activities happening within IIT Kanpur in the computer science department and otherwise.
That's correct.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure the time is
Mm.
very, very critical there. So
Right.
I think, but all said and done, you still have access in some fashion, which can be used beyond the program.
Which depends on the individual. Like they can also have their support from each other also, right? So
Yeah, yes, and that's where this whole idea of peer networking and peer learning kicks in, right? It kind of I've been a part of one such programs with IIM Calcutta, and while we may or may not have access to the professors, the cohort of 100 participants has so much to learn from, right? And there's so much of information share, knowledge share that happens on the WhatsApp group, and there's an exchange of requirements and questions that happens almost on a daily basis within the group, and the participants are very open to respond and help others get answers to their queries and solve their problems. So I'm sure peer learning is definitely a key element of this whole program, and that again is not available in online certifications that we had talked about earlier. Now, a very important question, Professor Shukla, about the prerequisites, and we have already talked about some sort of programming knowledge that one needs to have to be able to deal through this program. But a couple of questions here from Amit, and I think there was one other person asking the same question. So, which programming language is must to be a part of this program, or is C and shell scripting enough, or shell programming given in the documentation enough, or do we need to know something more so that we can go through this program smoothly?
Right. So C is a must, because to understand application security in a foundational manner, you have to understand the how processes work, and it's easiest to learn that through C programming, because it has a lot of vulnerable possibilities of vulnerabilities, and which are often not there, for example, in Java, right? So that C basic knowledge of C, not necessarily you have to have written 10,000 line of code in C, but at least you should be conversant well with C and basic elements of C. Shell scripting would be very useful and necessary. Python would be important, because if you want to learn malware analysis or the honeypots and things like that, most of it nowadays are being programmed in Python. Most of the machine learning stuff is done in Python. So knowing Python or ability to learn quickly Python would be useful.
All right.
And to understand web security, some knowledge of PHP and JavaScript will also be good, but you can probably pick up the very essentials quickly.
Yeah, and I'm sure all these have been given in the document which is available as a part of the
Yeah.
application process. So when you apply for the program, you have a document that you have to go through and accept. Yeah, meaning you understand the prerequisites, and not just that. Let me also tell you that all those who have enrolled for this program have already been given access to a learning platform with all these pre-learning resources, which includes a lot of important web resources and many videos that we have made on Python or C programming or HTML, etc., which are relevant for this program, right? So and you still have enough time to kind of go through that pre-learning material and get well versed with it before you start learning through this program. So that was
Right.
on the prerequisites. Anything else that you want to add, Professor Shukla, on the prerequisites?
No, so my thing is that the students should give time to this program. If you want to really learn the material excellent in a way that they can actually make use of it right after, then they have to give time not only to do the homeworks and stuff, but also on the side maybe learn, like if they're weak in Python, maybe on the side learn Python while they're doing this. Or if they don't know anything about JavaScript, while we are covering web security, some JavaScript concepts will be required, so they should on the side learn JavaScript. So take it take it seriously, and you can treat some of that as co-requisite but not necessarily prerequisite, but you should be willing to put in a lot of work. I mean, it's not going to be a that you come for 2 hours on Saturday and 2 hours on Sunday and you will become cybersecurity expert. I mean, you have to give enough hours on the side to actually make proper use of what you will learn.
Absolutely, and that exactly was the next question, right? What will be the expected workload per week? So, like the professor has pointed out, attending just the online sessions on Saturdays and Sundays for 2 hours each is not going to help you complete the program. I mean, that online sessions or the contact sessions that you will have during visits is one part of it, but you'll also have to spend some time, during the week to complete your assignments and to learn and prep yourselves up for the upcoming sessions, right? So
So I would suggest set aside 2 hours per day in the evening after your work to go through what we teach, do your homework, and also do something on your own like that you don't feel comfortable with. A lot of things that will be showing you during the class, they are not necessarily part of the homework, but you may want to try them out on your sandbox. To get convinced that this actually works and this has real vulnerability and so on. So I think that uh, you should be prepared to work hard to earn the not necessarily the certificate, but the right knowledge.
absolutely, and I'm sure 2 hours per day for the next 6 months to become a cybersecurity warrior is a very good deal, right? And we should be able to spend that. I'm not trying to sell the program in any means, but this really makes sense to me. And I think the last one, we are close to the end of the session now. Nikhil Kumar says, what are the tools that we would use or that we would learn during the program? And
So yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so what are the tools that we
Is
would
there
learn during the program, and what will be the use cases that we will get during the lab sessions? So there are two questions from Nikhil.
Right. So, in terms of tools, we have we you will learn some of the open source tools, like for example, starting from Bro to the tools that are part of the Metasploit tool set. But there are also many other tools that are developed by you, that will be developed by you during the course. Many of the tools are basically, most of the tools are basically scripting. right, or Python based. So you will learn a number of tools, but learning tools is not what this is about. Learning how to do things is what it is about. So we'll bring out the corresponding tools. For example, there are tools to manage the web, attacks on the web applications like SQL injection and so on. So we'll bring out those tools, and you can most of them are open source. You can download and you can use them yourself. But the point is not about will not be teaching you like if you open this menu and click on this and then it happens. This kind of stuff is not what we are going to teach in terms of tools. We'll give you the concepts and tell you what tools you can use to automate this process, and give a demo and stuff like that. The projects, homework projects, will actually have a in many cases will be giving you a pre-prepared virtual machine. In that there will be vulnerable applications, and you will have to find them first, and then you have to fix them, and then you have to show that after fixing those same attacks that you used to exploit the vulnerabilities don't work anymore. This kind of stuff you have to do for the homework.
All right, Professor Shukla, thank you so much. And I think that brings us to the end of this session. Let me quickly summarize that the program jointly offered by IIT Kanpur and Talent, which is the Advanced Certification in Cybersecurity and Cyber Defense, starts on 10th of Feb. Applications for this program are closing on the 23rd of Jan. And this is because we have a huge demand from participants who want to enroll. The first 50 seats that were open for the cohort have been filled already. And like we had discussed earlier, we have opened up a few more seats for those who are interested to take this up and be a part of this program, outcomes of which are already discussed during this live session. I'm sure, like Professor has pointed out, you will build expertise in cybersecurity and cyber defense. Knowledge is the biggest takeaway, right? Many of you had talked about certification, but certification, well, you get an IIT Kanpur certification, which is again globally recognized, but certification is only for compliance, and knowledge is what really matters. So you'll build this expertise in cybersecurity and cyber defense. You will learn from world-class faculty at IIT Kanpur. You will experience C3I, which in my view is a great opportunity, and peer networking with top-notch cybersecurity experts who are going to be a part of this program or who become experts being a part of this program is an advantage that you have. And then that advantage will help you not just during the program, but beyond it, where you can interact with them and build that relationship that will help you solve your problems in future during your work, and learn in this ongoing deep cyber tech or cyber technology, right? Like Professor has mentioned earlier, it is not static, right? It is changing. So you have to ensure that you adapt to the latest in this technology, and that can happen only when you learn through your peers on an ongoing basis. So that's all from our side. Thank you, Professor Shukla, for giving your valuable time.
Thank you.
I'm sure all the participants would love to meet you during the first visit on the 10th of Feb. And of course, you'll also be a part of the online sessions. And thank you to all of you for joining us in this session. It was great to have you all. Very interesting questions, and I'm sure all your queries have been addressed. If you want to know more about the program, please, you can follow our website and contact the numbers that have been given in the chat. I think there were a couple of queries on pricing or the easy interest-free EMI options that we have. So if you want to know more about it, please feel free to contact us. We'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you once again, and do take very good care of yourselves. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.